I think people want to give and they want to, they want to go up to people on the street. They want to, help out where they can. They just don't know where. And I think, I always finish all my talks with there's never a right time to start. There's never a right time to do anything. So just do it. If it doesn't go to plan, it's all good. It'd be great. Yeah. Whatever happens, if it comes up short, then so be it. But you had a crack. And usually you'll find that majority of the time it's pretty special, whatever it is that you have a go at.
This podcast is recorded on the lands of the Gadigal people, one of the 29 clan groups that make up the Eora Nation. We acknowledge the traditional owners who are connected to this land and acknowledge their unbroken connection and sovereignty to all the lands that now make up Australia. We extend that acknowledgement to all of the traditional owners connected to the country you may be listening to this podcast from. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Before we get into today's episode, we do want to warn listeners there is some content that could be triggering for some people. If there's anything that's brought up today that affects you, know there is someone out there to listen. Make sure you call Lifeline on 13 11 14. Hello and welcome back to When We Grow Up, the podcast where we ask where we've been to know where we're going. We're your hosts. I'm Marlee Silva.
I am Nicho, Hynes.
And today we are joined by a man who really doesn't need much of an introduction. He's someone who's captured the nation, captured the hearts of the nation, I should say, by running across the country. He's come in with a little bit of hostility.
A bit of gusto.
A bit of gusto is a perfect way to describe it. So I'm a little bit caught off guard,
He's
if I'm honest.
very angry at us, Marlee, and I think it's either your fault or someone else's, I don't know who, but
okay, well,
it's definitely not mine because I don't organise this shit.
It's Nedd Brockmann, I should say.
G'day,
Nedd, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm very good. I'm as you said, I'm quite rattled because I'm very prompt. I'm very punctual with my timing, and I thought we're a bit of a mix up. We're all good now. We're all good.
Wires crossed. I feel like I honestly feel like I
Marlee's
disappointed
so rattled,
you.
eh?
I feel so upset that we were, from your eyes, late. I will stand by the fact that we weren't, but that's fine.
It's all good. We're all over it.
I'm glad that you've made the time. You're a very, very busy man. First of all, how are you liking the setup? You feeling good on the couch?
It's good. It's like Simpson-esque, like you're on The Simpsons.
Yeah, fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
That's a good point. I don't think
Has
everyone's
that
said
ever been brought up?
No.
That's how I feel. It's like I'm staging something like that.
I like that.
But yeah, I like it. It's good. No, it's good to be here. I've been stinging to get on the pod and have a chat.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we start all of these conversations with our wins and challenges, reflecting on something that has happened during the week that feels really good and something that maybe has not felt as good. Nicho, do you want to start?
Before you start, Marlee, I want to give a little rundown and paint a picture of how Nedd and I first met.
Oh, go on then.
Yeah. You're getting too fast into
that's good. I like
challenge.
that.
So
look, I've just been criticised so much already. As soon as
she's copped it.
with the introduction, Nedd,
Absolutely
I'm like, this is exactly what I get from Nicho all the time. So I'm going to have two Nichos today.
Marlee,
Also, do you start the pod with that every time? I thought it'd be like a repeated thing. You've done that really well.
That's what Nicho has
she does
asked
it.
for me to do.
I just said, fuck, why don't you just like
Repeat it.
Yeah, seriously. And she goes, no, this is how I get into my zone.
Love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like
Anyway,
it.
Marlee, can you just have a couple of breaths and take a sip of that water, please? And listen to how I met Nedd. So, GQ Men Awards.
Yes.
I was like very honoured to be invited to it, but I was like, fuck, do I do this? Like, I don't know what to do here. Like, it was a late thing I committed to, and I was like, you know what, I'll go meet some cool people, get out of my comfort zone, because I was definitely out of my fucking comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I remember rocking up, and I walk in, and I just went, wow, I don't know a single person here. And I was like, I don't think I rang Keely, I don't rang you or whatever. And I was like, fucking hell, I'm just here on my own. What do I do? Do I just go sit down? And then I stumble across, I keep walking through, when I look around, and then Nedd comes walking his way with your missus.
Yeah, we're going.
You guys walk away, and I was going, yes, you look as uncomfortable as me right now.
Oh, mate, I fucking stuck out like a sore thumb.
Oh, and we shook hands and we just stood together for the rest of the night. We're like, yes, I fucking got someone here.
Yeah.
So that's how Nedd and I fucking first met.
Yeah, mutual, mate. It was, I was the same. I walked in there. I was still rattled from the run, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was like 3 weeks later. I was still having nightmares, still, doing rogue things in my sleep, dreaming about road trains. And then I'm rocked up to this thing, like looking at all these people just absolutely glammed up. I've got my RM Williams belt on, my RM boots, and they're going, what are you wearing? I'm like, I don't know. It's a bit mix and match. So that was fun. Nice to be back.
It was
Do you know what's funny? We actually met on the same day, but at separate occasions. because we had that panel.
Was that morning?
That was that morning,
There you
and then
go,
that
right?
night.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's all
How's
come full
that?
circle.
How good.
Ours is a cool story. But
Yeah, it is. So.
when I ended up sitting on a table with Fish and Chloe, and fuck, it was so funny. And you were on the table with the Inspired Unemployed boys.
Inspired and Dill Orcott and a few others. Yeah, it was a fun night.
And one of the boys yelled out when Russell Crowe was talking, hey, and he got a little awkward.
He's like, Rusty's the goat, man.
No one laughed.
Nah, you could hear a pin drop. It was so bad. Fucking so bad.
All right, my win and challenge. I want to start with my challenge, which was yesterday. I got a couple of challenges, but yesterday the main one was at Newcastle Stadium. I went and watched the team play. Part of my challenge is, I wasn't able to put on the jersey yesterday and play because I had a little injury. But I was sitting there watching the girls' game and had a lot of fans yelling out to me, which is fine. I went and said hello to some of them. But I really just want to sit there and watch the game. I've been helping the girls out a little bit and I enjoyed just watching the footy. And then I ran back into the dressing room to go see how the boys were preparing and whatnot. And I ran past the kids and one of the fans yelled out, "Oh, Nicho, your dog." And I was like, I stopped and I looked back and I put my head back down the tunnel and I don't know if it was the kid that was still sitting there. He goes, "God, can you come sign this?" I was like, no way, not after you just spoke to me. And that's the first time it's challenged me really, like fans saying something like that. Like usually I'm really patient, but I just don't feel like that's acceptable whatsoever.
Absolutely not.
And the kids these days are getting a lot. They don't use their manners. They're asking for a lot of us players, and we sort of sometimes feel bad for not doing it, but we don't really need to do it. If they're not going to talk to us nicely and treat us with respect, then why do we have to do that back? Which I love interacting with the fans. I love it. I love, because I always think of my younger self and how they would feel, myself would feel with being around an NRL player or a famous person, whatever. But that's pretty unacceptable, I feel.
Yeah.
Getting called a dog for going in to see my team, So I was
Absolutely.
like, by a little kid, and what's their parents doing?
Yeah. I completely
so
agree.
good.
Yeah.
When you told me that earlier today, I just was like, far out. That makes me so wild. And you have so much patience with this stuff because I don't think I'd be able to handle it. But Nedd, I mean, I'm sure that you had this big explosion, and have you had interactions with the public that have kind of rattled you, or people just not respecting those boundaries?
I guess probably with Nicho, it's a bit different. You've kind of gradually been seen more and more, and you put more, better you play, the more you're seen and more people are getting behind you. I ran being, in Cottesloe, being relatively unknown into, stopping the fucking nation or getting to Bondi. And it was just this moment of being relatively unknown to everyone knowing.
Yeah.
And then this mullet was so recognizable and it was I hadn't really processed it at all. So a week later or 2 weeks later, I'm, the trip I usually take to go to the grocery store or, walk into the dog park used to be I could, do my thing, not have to care. I could get on a phone call and swear and go and be whoever. And then all of a sudden everyone's watching and they see that guy with the hair. So, it changed a fair bit. And when I would say I was in Woolies, I'd just be, shopping and I'd get "Oh, how you going?" I'd be like, holy shit. If that happened to me prior, I would have just turned around and, been what's going on? But I had to get used to that. So, but with what I've done, there's no, you're playing against 16 other teams, 17 other teams. Is that right?
16 other teams,
16, yeah. Where, your supporters are so supportive of you, but everyone else is like, "Oh, fucking Nicho, he's played and blah, blah, blah." Where me, it felt like the whole team was with me.
Yeah.
And so everyone who felt a part of my run, that's all it is. It's just them coming up going, I was inspired or I was motivated or whatever. They just want to tell me their story.
Yep.
So it took me a bit of time to go through that transition of they're here just whether they, there's the people that come up and go, "Oh, we can't get a photo," rather than me "Hey, how you going?
Yeah.
What's going on?" It's "Hey mate, I'm Nedd. How are you?" Let's just chill out and sure, let's get a photo. But no, it's been relatively speaking, everyone's pretty good. About it. Yeah.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah.
You win.
My win. Well, it's a part of my challenge because obviously, like I said, I didn't get to play this week and I felt like I let the team down massively. But my win was getting to spend 24 hours or 30 hours with Dykesy, Cade Dykes is a player who'd done his ACL earlier in the year.
Right.
And he couldn't play a game this year. And he's been coming away on our team chits because people who do the ACLs sort of feel like a bit apart from the team. And they spend a lot of time themselves in the gym, doing their rehab, a lot of time alone. So he's come away over the last few weeks and him and I roomed together because we were not playing and we got to go on our swims and just got to talk shit up to midnight talking just about life and footy. It was just really cool because he's a really great guy and I love him and I respect him a lot. And it was just cool to have a funny 24 hours with him and separate from the team a little bit. But like he's a really good guy and just talk life. So that was a good win.
Sick. So good.
Marlee?
Little bromance.
Good up, Marlee.
My challenge was something that I kind of anticipated a few weeks ago before the NRLW season kicked off, that everything would get pretty busy, and I like compartmentalize all the different moving parts of my life. And I've just realized in the last week that I have done something that I have a bad habit of doing when it gets busy, and just gone, I'll just ignore it until it becomes a problem. So this is just like life admin stuff, a few other parts of my job outside of my main job that I've just let drop. And last night I was driving home from Newcastle up, because I was up there too working the whole day, thinking, oh my God, I didn't respond to this email. Oh my God, am I ready to talk to Nedd tomorrow? And then I've come in red hot and we're late and I've stuffed it up, and like the anxiety just went, just thinking, I feel a bit overwhelmed knowing that after this, there's a lot of shit that I have to do today. So that's a bit of a challenge, but we'll get on top of it. Yep. It'll be okay. And then my win was on come out of my main gig working at 9 this week. I had a really good feedback session with my main boss. It's probably the first time I've caught up with him since I started doing sideline reporting, and they're just really happy with the work that I'm doing. And then I got, I guess, a little bit rewarded yesterday in being able to have a go at the first men's game I've done with Channel 9. And not that I very much see the women's game as just as valuable as a product, and I don't see it as necessarily a stepping stone into the NRL. I love working in the women's game, but I know that a lot more people watch the men's. So it was nice to do that. I felt probably the most confident I've felt in this role since I started this weekend, and I think I brought the best version of myself, so I feel good.
Nice, Marlee.
So good.
What about you, Nedd?
Jesus. So my challenge, I think it's I like to challenge myself all the time, like quite intentionally. So when I get challenged unintentionally, it's kind of like nice in a weird way. But in saying that, I think like I've committed to reading every night. And there's been a lot of times I've been like late in bed, and you know when you just hit the bed and you're like, last thing you want to do is read. So just like in terms of physical, I've been like, fuck, I'm going to read 10 pages of this book tonight. It's like 11 o'clock. And I'm like, no, surely not. Why didn't I just do it at 10 a.m. this morning? So that's been my challenge, is like trying to just be good at, putting in times, like doing things at the right time. I don't know what the word is.
Discipline?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with discipline, but like the actual scheduling and making sure I tick the things off, as opposed to trying to complete them all by the time I get to bed.
Yeah.
And my win would be yesterday. We with the Legends Puma, we went and did a heap of people signed up to run with me down in Centennial Park, because I got Sydney Marathon up ahead and doing a few training runs, and there was 200 legends that got picked to come down and run, and all got shoes and kit and a hat, and just like hearing everyone's story, like how I inspired them to get up and get after it, or whatever it was. Like there was people telling me they lost 60 kilos since October because they saw me run in. And they were like, this is fucked, it changed my life. Like if he can do that, I can get up off the couch and start doing things. Wow. So the win was like hearing those people's stories and just giving them the time of the day to let that, give them the platform to be able to go, thank you so much. And that was really special. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's my win.
I think that is why you've, just remained in the forefront of so many people's minds, and having been this guy out of obscurity who set that challenge. And I think that's really what we want to talk about today. Obviously, all of us were following you along as you ran across the country, but who you really are and how you got to this point. I mean, one of the things that freaks me out is that, are you 24 now?
Yeah, 24.
It just feels like you should be older. And I don't mean this because you look older or anything, but it's just like,
right.
just to
age poorly.
No, but like that just seems so wild to me. Like, because I think of even myself at like, I mean, I'm only 4 years older than you, but it's like, to have achieved what you have in the last 12 or 18 months is immense. And then, you've got so much life to keep living.
Yeah, I think that's what's so exciting. I often question that too. Like part of me is like, why is it, people always go, you must be 30 or you must be whatever. Like, why are you speaking like that? How does this go on in your head? And I think it's honestly because of throwing myself into those scenarios and just kind of going with it and seeing what happens. And then like I'm living those life experiences, and all of a sudden I can now talk about it. But it's like, you know, when you're 20 to 24, usually you're out in the piss doing the things that, you know, all young people do. And it's like, I don't drink. I don't, you know, I'm very like, I just want to find the best, and that's the best of myself. And I think that's where it all just comes. Yeah.
Amazing.
I know we're going to touch on it, probably will, but was there a time in your life where you're sitting home back where you're from and you just go, this is what I need to be better, or I need to do better, or my mindset needs to change? Was there any moment where you remember where you just go, fuck, like this is what I want to do? Like,
yeah, it was funny. I actually don't even know like what I want to do in like 2 years' time. I still don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
I just know that, you know, I'm working towards something, and when I pick that, I'm going to do that one, and then it goes again. It's just constantly evolving. I think that's the best thing. As people, I think we just need to evolve. You need to be better people. That's all we're here for. We're not here to, you know, we're not put here for your purpose isn't different to mine. My purpose isn't different to yours. It's we're all here to evolve, be better people, and give back. I genuinely think that's it. But like, make the most of your time. And I think for me, it all started. I moved to Sydney. I was kind of like, you know, started my electrical apprenticeship, started my trade, and I was just like doing what everyone else does. I was very sheepy. But you know, prior to that, I was at school, you know, I was probably challenged people a bit, and I was always a bit trying to work out what is going on in my head. Why are we doing all this? And then, I started my apprenticeship, and I remember just being a bit overweight, a bit like just doing what everyone else does, drinking beers, eating pies, chocolate milk. Just still,
milk, yes.
Still a big one of my staples, the old chocolate milk. And, and I was just like, what are you doing? I remember I got back after, it was probably 10 months in my apprenticeship, and I was covered in concrete dust, saw myself in the mirror, like naked, about to have a shower. I was like, what are you doing? Like your body's symbolic of where you're heading, like it nowhere. Yeah. Let's do something about it. And then, basically from that moment on, I was like, let's start training, get better, get healthier. And it all just evolved from there. Yeah.
Love that.
I mean, you're just, a walking inspiration. The way that you talk and tell these stories and have those little words of wisdom already, I'm so glad we're getting to have this chat. We'll bring up the first photo that we've got of you. We get all of our guests to look at their younger selves.
Sick.
And this is a cracker shot. So this is you as a little one with your siblings and mum. It's a black and white photo. And you guys,
it's a really nice photo.
You and your brother are flexing your muscles.
Yeah, me big tap on my shoulder.
Yeah. Tell us, about this. This is where you grew up on the farm.
Yeah, this is at the back of our farm. We've got a fair few thousand acres. Dad and mum Dad's been a farmer his whole life. Left school at 14 to work. Yeah, it's all he, didn't really have an education, but knew he had to make money because he never came from it. And sold pigs up until 14. That was like every Friday he'd be skipping school to sell pigs and just try and make, And so he worked just tirelessly. When we were kids, like we didn't see Dad a lot because he was just out working all the time. And then mum was very isolated out in the farm. Like we live 60K from the nearest town, which is, fair whack of a drive. And we were trying to save money, so fuel wasn't really top of the mind. So mum was just out, caring for 3 kids. I think that was a big stress on her. But watching, the way they sacrificed for us for like years and years through drought, floods, through everything, I think is a big kicker as to why I'm kind of the way I am today. But it's my brother and sister. My brother's a builder, and he's just moved back to the farm. And then my little sister is a gorgeous. She's a paramedic. She just finished her paramedics degree, and she's working here in Sydney. But they're special people.
So you've got a book coming out. When will it be released?
4th of October. It's out.
4th of October.
Yeah.
Well, we're very lucky because we got a bit of a sneak preview.
Bit of a read.
And so your manager shared the manuscript with us, and I was like having a bit of a read through it to think about sort of questions for you or whatever. And I just found myself really kind of encapsulated in the words. I think the way that it's structured. So it's called Showing Up.
Yep.
I have to say, like genuinely, I said to Nicho, like, this is really good. Like I've really felt drawn into it because you have that mix of you reflecting on the days of your run, but also reflecting on your childhood and what's made you become who you are. Yep. And
if you didn't know, Marlee has wrote a book.
I did.
And she's a writer, so she's going to be judging every word and paragraph.
No, it's a big ups for bloody that.
It's definitely my kind of book. Like it's really, you should be very proud.
Thank you.
But I was particularly, I love the way that you write about your mum.
Yeah.
What a woman, can I say? And there's that chapter or section of it, which is sort of you've got little quotes that open everything, and one of them is about your mum saying, "Don't come to me unless it's bleeding or broken." And then I think you talk about her other rule being you've got to be home before
that.
Yeah, very cool. Like she seems, and you talk about some pretty horrific stuff that she went through, and that her birth with you is like was so peaceful and all this sort of stuff. And I love the way that you talk about your family and how much they've shaped you.
Yeah. I think it's cool as you said, it's like that that was 2 rules was make sure don't come crying because, so often kids are always like, I fall over crying, mum pick me up.
Yeah.
Mum was always like, do not come crying or complaining unless you're broken or bleeding and make sure you're home before dark. And I think that inside killed her. She did not want to do that. Obviously that protective part in mum was like, I cannot let my kid go and do this. But how is your kid ever going to problem solve? How are they ever going to become more resilient unless they find their way through themselves? And that was it. It was just like, go home. So I took that as fucking gospel. I was like, I'd rock up, broken arm, bleeding, just like, just absolutely cook myself all out the farm, come back. Hey, mum, eyelid cut open or something ridiculous. But yeah, it just taught us, it was a big thing on her to let it go. But when she did it, it just taught us to be, problem solve and find ways out of things that are tough instead of, relying on your parents to go and sort it out for you, which I think, we're a very risk averse world at the moment. We
that's fucking perfect parenting, eh?
Yeah, just let them go. And if they drop down, it's like, pick yourself back up. You fell down.
Throw in the deep end and fucking do your best.
Find your way.
I love that.
But yeah, like, and even now it's probably, parents probably get a bit of slack for doing that with all social media. It's like, if you're not picking, what are you doing? What are you doing? Bad parenting. But it's like, even my brother, he was a nut job up until, 7 or 8. Mum had him on a lead. Literally had him on a dog lead in like the supermarkets. And she'd say, Logan, do not do that. And he'd go, I'm fucking doing it. And so he'd do it. But I remember, this is a proper story. Mum had him in the, he was just running around grabbing lollies, eating them out of the woolies. And she's like, you come here, I'm going to smack you. He didn't. She's smacking the hell out of him right in the aisle of Woolworths. And these 3 older ladies like looking at mum smacking him down the road, down the aisle. She's like, turned to him, do you want him? Do you want him? And they're like, no, all good, keep going. So yeah, she's a tough woman. I'm very proud of mum. She's an amazing person.
I love to hear that, eh? Like, that's awesome to hear you speak about your family like that. I got a question. Looking at that little Ned there, what do you remember his first dream or what he wanted to do when you grew up?
I think the one I remember would be a pilot.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which is funny. I was just fascinated by how planes flew and how when you look at the cockpits, like how much is going on. That always fascinated me. Like, but then I very quickly realized it just didn't really tickle me fancy. And that was it. But I reckon that was the first proper like dream. And I like obviously had the footy and the soccer and all the sports we played. I was like, I want to be the best at that. I want to be the best at this. But yeah, in terms of like, I remember that being a big one, being a pilot. Yeah. So that's funny. Yeah.
You said, you moved to Sydney when you were 20.
Yeah, 19.
19.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, having grown up in such a remote kind of environment, like you said, 60 Ks from the nearest town, just outside of Forbes, right?
Just outside of Forbes,
yep. So, I mean, I'm born and raised in Sydney myself, and I'm always fascinated by, like, what are the big kind of shocks to the system or differences, and maybe even things you realise you're grateful for you got to experience growing up in more regional parts of New South Wales before you moved to the Big Smoke.
Yeah, it's only until you live in the place you're in that you realize how good it was where you were living. Yeah. If all I ever knew was Sydney, it would be, that's my thing. I love Sydney, But we had like, you could go 20K on a motorbike to one end and you still wouldn't get to our end of our property. We just had like it's hard to explain to people unless you go out there. You're like, wait, this is all your property. And we'd chase, like you'd be on motorbikes chasing animals around and, doing things like marking calves and, sowing crops and things. And that was when we were 10 years old. Like we were driving trucks. Logan was driving it from 8. I think I was 9 or 10. He holds that to me. But yeah, you just do things that, kids would never have the access to in the big cities. But yeah, when I moved to the city, it's not that the city's bad. I still like it, but like it serves its purpose in that it's, you have access to so many things. And if you are trying to do more and, live your life to the fullest, it is awesome opportunities to be in Sydney. But yeah, I every probably 6 months I need a break and head back out to the farm and just like, it's where I sleep the most, reset the most. It's just like so peaceful. But yeah, I don't think I'll live in Sydney forever. I think it has a means to an end. But yeah, it is a cool place too.
Yeah, absolutely.
How does that family right there, looking at that, how do they treat you now of who you are?
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they think it's weird, like, fuck, Nedd, you getting asked for too many photos in the street, or you can't even walk down the street with you anymore, you know? Do they find that weird?
I do find it fascinating. And even like, I think it was always harder when I was trying to work it out myself. I think they didn't know how to feel when I was still trying to work it out.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, you know, I'm no different to that little kid. I never will be. No matter what happens in my life, how many people know of what I've done, or like, you know, it's so much bigger than that. It's like, you know, I'm just living to the fullest, and people want in on that. People want to be like, how can I do that in my life? It's not, you know, they're not looking at me going, oh my God, amazing Nedd. It's more just like, I'm just living life to the best. And as I touched on before, I'm just evolving and trying to be the best person I can be. And like, if I ever got, you know, if my feet weren't ever on the ground, I'd be quickly slapped down by every one of those and down.
Yeah.
And like Logan keeps me in touch pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah.
You need
That's
that.
what big brothers are supposed to
That's
do,
it.
right?
Yeah.
We'll go to the next photo, and I think this is sort of okay.
Oh, yeah.
So this is you playing rugby.
Yep.
And I think that this works quite nicely into what you were saying about like people just want to.
Which one are you?
I'm in the middle at the back, screaming
Oh, yeah?
behind lamp. Yeah.
Because another thing that you talk about in the book is the fact that you're not an athlete, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And people, I'm sure, are really shocked by that aspect, that you're just someone who is an regular person who set the challenge for yourself. When you look back at like the sport you played growing up, are there lessons that you learnt doing that in those challenges that have led to you being this running?
Yeah. I think like, you know, I was never that great at any sport really. Like I was always average. I was just like, you know, I'd get picked in the first 15 or I'd get picked in like the A's kind of just. Like it wasn't like a shoe-in. And the same with rowing. I was never in the top boat, but I was in like the top 8 if I was to row in. I wasn't like, you know, I wasn't in the top squad or anything. It was always like, I'm always got the carrot in front of me dangling, but I just never grabbed it, you know. And I think that was what made me who I am. It's not that I got picked in things, it was that I actually didn't. And that drive and that, you know, continually getting told, you know, just not good enough. You're just not good enough. And I kind of love that. And I always knew there'd be a part, whether it's like, I always knew there was a bigger picture than school. I know it's very easy to go, oh, school's like the sport you're playing is the be all and end all in the moment. This is it. But out of that, I always knew there was something more, like out of school or out of, you know, there's bigger picture things like in life. So when I didn't get picked, like I played first 15 and I played, you know, in these teams and it was really cool, but it was never like, oh, I'm amazing because I play in the first 15 now. It was always like, I'm still just as, best thing I ever heard at a rugby lunch was like, it was actually Robbie Deans. You know Robbie Deans? He's talking about his son not getting picked in the first 15. And he kept saying to him, it's one man's opinion, mate. It's one man's opinion that you're not in there. And then he finally got picked and he was showboating about it and goes, Dad, I got picked in the first 15. He goes, it's one man's opinion, mate.
Yeah, okay.
And that was like,
I like that, eh?
yeah. It's it was always like you're only as good as, you know, you're not anyone better because you're in that. And I think that's something I've tried to live through, and that's what I was touching on before, is like I'm not any better because I've run across Australia. I'm still the same kid. I'm just doing things that excite me. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I find it so fascinating how we touched on it before, how you speak about, you know, you're only 24 and you found your mindset, you found your mind strength and your discipline. And I guess I've just been thinking like you must have just grew all that being on the farm because you had to work from a young age. And what about in high school? Did you have that mindset of like, you know, you know how you say you want to be challenged every day? Like, did you have that then, or is that when you looked in the mirror that day, that's when you're like, now I want to be challenged? Like, yeah,
I think like my personality has always been the same. I don't think I've had that mindset of like, I've got to be better. I don't think I've had that. I've only had that for like the past 4 years, I reckon, 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
I loved the idea of being told no. Like I couldn't do it. And that's like, that fucking fired me up more than you can ever imagine. Like people saying, no, you'll never get in there, or you'll never, like I love that. I really fueled off that negative energy. But even like there's farm kids I know who aren't mentally tough. I think it comes down to my parents. Regardless of whether we grew up on a farm or not, it was just that they coupled the farm with their way they were parented. And yeah, and then even in high school, it was never like, I never sat there going, right, I'm going to wake up, have a cold shower because that's fucking tough.
Yeah.
It was, I was never consciously getting uncomfortable so I was equipped, you know. It was like, I think it was happening without me knowing. And that when I was doing it, it was like, what is this? Trying to, you know, work it all out, trying to reflect. And I didn't do that. But now I think I reflect so much. I go, well, actually, these are pivotal moments, you know, these actually shape me to be where I am now.
Yeah. That's the one
So
thing
I feel like if I got in the teams that I, you know, everyone was in, it just like, probably it would have been, oh, this is easy. I don't have to work for anything. You fall into like this false sense of, and it just never happened for me.
It does make so much sense. I was going to chat to you a bit later about reflection because I agree, like certain moments, like you're subconsciously learning, you're thinking, and then when you're reflecting back on certain moments, you're like, oh, okay, that's probably what has shaped me to be a bit mentally tough compared to other people. Yeah. So what about like when you looked in the mirror that day of your concrete, whatever, how you're wearing or how you're dressed naked.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you start listening to podcasts or did you have a mentor or someone that helped you gain that sort of mindset, or did you just go, no, this is fucking how I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it my way?
You know, it was actually like being in Sydney and around people being fit and being like pushing for work, like being good at work or being, you know, best businessman or whatever it is. I kind of saw that a lot, and I was involving myself with all these, you know, whether I was going into these people's houses as a apprentice sparky going, how do these people, like, what is it that makes them people have this? Like, what, like I'm very inquisitive. Yeah, and I was always like, why is people training? Why are people, you know, at the top of their game? And I found I was like, trying to consume that and trying to be like, and then basically just went, and it was kind of, you know, all these people on podcasts and stuff. I was hearing like about mental toughness and, you know, what is this? What's this thing people are training? And then, you know, like obviously I heard of Goggins, and I never really took too much Goggins in. I always was like, oh yeah, it's cool. But it was a bit too much for me. Like
he's a bit
very American.
It was very, very just like, but yeah, I just started, and when I saw myself and I was like, I think I just found like, when I started running, I was like, okay, you've run that distance. Now try to run further. Okay, couple that with eating well. Oh, you're starting to feel good. And this like compounding of like what I was doing just started to make me go, well, fuck, where does this stop? Where can I take this? And then, running was just the thing in which the tool I was using to find this. It was never like, I'm a runner, fuck yeah, I'm going to go do this. It was like, I fucking hated running, and I still don't really love it. But it's a great tool, and I've found I'm pretty okay at it. You know, I can manage a fairly long run and recover pretty quick. So I was like, why not use that as the tool to get uncomfortable? Yeah, and that's kind of how it all happened. It was never like, there was no one moment where I went, it kind of just evolved and compounded. And then all of a sudden I was, you know, waking up at 4 a.m. to train for an hour before I went to work. And then I'd rock up at work at 6:30 and go, you know, I'd be like fucking in everyone's face. Like, what are you doing? Everyone's having a, you know, a can of V and a durry before work. That was like, I'd won that too. I'm like, well, they're not really prioritizing this. So I was just like, felt like I was always winning, even though I wasn't racing or trying to beat anyone. I was just playing against myself.
That's so impressive, because like, I feel like I've had a similar mindset, but then I hired my mindset guy because I always had demons in my brain, and that was stopping me and holding me back. And so I hired my mindset coach, and now I feel like I've got a great mindset, mentally tough and whatnot. Yeah. But for you to find that yourself and being able to challenge yourself, like I've had to go find why things work in my brain and why like I didn't do this or didn't do that growing up, and why this impacted me so much. And it's fucking so impressive that you've just done that yourself, and you've been able to just get up every single day and win it without even like having to talk to anyone about it, or someone walk you through it or mentor you. Like, it's fucking really impressive.
Yeah, thank you. I was just saying out there to one of the boys, I was like, you know, I think a lot of the time we just dive headfirst into things and don't really reflect on why. We just go. And I think a lot of people could do with a bit of self-reflection. Obviously not too much of it, but I think there's like, you know, now I do a fair bit of keynote speaking, a few potties, and it is the perfect way to self-reflect. Like, you can journal and write and do all these things, but you know, I'm up on stage. My first keynote in February is wildly different to what I do now. Yeah. But I go up and I talk about, you know, I remember being 5 minutes into one keynote and I had a brain fart for 15 seconds in front of 4,000 people. But what actually happened was, I'm saying this thing I think I am telling them, you know, that is important. And I'm like, why am I telling them that? you've had this time to reflect and go, no, this is actually what's important. And so I remember being up on stage just going like, hold up, and having these reflective moments going, oh no, this is what I'm actually thinking. So I went, oh, okay, guys. So now, and that's those moments are the like most powerful reflecting, because I get to like live in it all the time. I'm like reliving what I've done and like get to talk about it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
I mean, yeah, I really agree with you, Nicho, that that's so rare. I think that self-motivation is probably a big part of why people are so often asking you like, what's the secret? What's the secret?
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can be taught that. Like, I think that sometimes it can be about unlocking it, like it was for you, Nicho. I think that was similar for me. Like I knew that what I wanted to do and always being really ambitious and just giving it a go and not being afraid of failing is something that I can definitely relate to. But I similarly had to go through some, pretty hectic and tough conversations. So that's why you inspire people, I think.
Yeah.
The next photo we have is one of the iconic ones. And it's just you kind of like hunched over, and it's a very like beautiful shot. But I wanted to get into the run itself now, and not necessarily, like I said, in the book, like when it's out, everyone should be reading that, because those reflections on sort of the day and that being the really like tough moments of almost breaking mentally and all that sort of stuff. But you're almost, is it 12 months now since you left on the run?
Yeah, shit. 3 days, 12 months. Yeah. In 3 days.
So far out. Like
It's
what a
hectic,
year.
mate. Oh my God. I just like don't even understand how. Like I don't even know how this is all just, it just feels like I've just been on this like trajectory. It's so mental.
Yeah.
It is so mental.
It is so mental, and it's going to be I think a moment in like national history. Like this is something that so many people got on board with. Was there a point how many days in did you realize, holy, like people are really giving a crap about this?
You know what? The second last day.
Yeah.
I think, Instagram was blowing up. Things were like, taking off. And there was news articles and, everyone sharing it. And I was like, still was like, that's not enough to wake me up and go again. Because, I would touch on it, but I'm not a runner. Just a dude that's going, I'm fucking running across Australia. And if someone can run 100K a day, why can't I? It was never like, this is a dream of mine. I've been thinking about this for 10 years. It's just like, I woke up one morning and went, I'm going to do this a year out. And then we trained and didn't really train great for it, but I had bared the cost. It would, the price I had to pay to, I had fully accepted the price I had to pay to get across the country. Like the injuries I had to go through, the mental state I had to go through, I was prepared to pay that. So whatever threw itself my way, I was ready to cop it. And so, so that mindset, you couldn't take me out of that. No matter how many people got on board, how much things were going on around what I was doing, it was just like, I need to run 100K today. That's all it was. And then so probably the second last day I finished, I ran 114K on that second last day. And I remember just being like, we've only got 60 fucking kilometers to go. Yeah. 60 kilometers. And I'm like looking at my phone, and Albo commented on my fucking post.
Did he?
Like, yeah. I was like, oh shit, this is grabbing some serious heat. And then, and then it was just like that final day, it was like, I still had 60K to run. Like that's a daunting prospect for a lot of people. And I'm like following maps on my phone, and like, the Batuta boys, they're like posting stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like what is happening? Yeah. So probably till that second last day, I didn't really even realize. And then when I obviously ran into Bondi and saw that, it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Did you,
this is a moment.
Yeah.
Did you, so at the end of every run, when you were at home, or not home, but wherever you were sleeping, did you look at the Insta and social media just so that keeps you going, that pumps you up for the next day?
It actually didn't at all, funnily
really?
enough. It was, you know what, that was me that wrote every single post on every single night, because I wanted people to know exactly what I was feeling. I didn't want someone to go, day 11, Ned's done, big day today. I wanted it to be like, day 11, my leg's fucked. I am feeling this. Like this is, just pouring my heart out. As soon as I'd post it, phone's gone. I didn't care. There was whatever happened, and I'd wake up, I'd check it throughout the day, but there's hardly any service anyway, but I'd check it throughout the day and, be like, oh, this is cool. He's doing this, or someone said this, or, someone's just went through labor and they kept saying get comfortable being uncomfortable. Like that stuff was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, as like an external motivator, the Instagram and the idea of me blowing up was never even a factor. It didn't even, not one part of me cared. But that's what made it so special. And that's why so many people were down in Bondi, because it was never about me.
Yeah.
It was always about what I was doing and who it was helping.
Yeah. Did you ever have anyone like join you, like Forrest Gump, when you were running?
I actually put out a fair bit of like, a lot of people got quite upset that they couldn't run with me, but I was like, it's selfish, this and that. I put it out there because it was dangerous. But plus also, I've got to focus on running 100K a day. You think I want to learn about your life story?
No.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, this is your moment. It's not mine. It's it's your moment, you know? Let's not sugarcoat this, mate. Like, and a few times people rocked up and I was like, I'm sorry guys, like we've got to cull this because I need to focus on this each step because it's really hard. But yeah, we a few people were upset, but most people understood.
I probably should have told you before, but you've probably answered all these questions a lot, but I've wanted to get to know you and your story by being on this podcast. So I haven't listened to any of your podcasts, so I don't really know much about it. So that's why I'm probably asking the same question you've already answered. So I wanted to hear it properly from your voice. So I apologise.
No, don't. I think it's much better when you do it like that.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, it makes it more special.
Like you said, the Prime Minister's commenting on things and all that sort of stuff. Hamish Blake wrote the foreword to the book, which, I mean, that made me fangirl. Like, I'd be losing my mind at that. But, and you've had so many, I'm just so like a big fan of his and his wife. Was there anyone who like really blew your mind, like in terms of, you know, high profile people? We saw you up there on stage singing some songs. Yeah. Like what of those kind of like just bizarre, I can't believe this is my life moments have been?
Please tell me Margot Robbie did not reach out to you.
Nah, she didn't. Fuck. Miley Cyrus, if that happened, if Miley Cyrus did that, I'd wet myself. No,
Full pass?
This is, 100%. Gemma knows it. It's really funny. Like, give me 5 years ago and you said, you know, you're going to be up on stage singing with Jimmy Barnes. You're going to be, you know, at the UFC with Adesanya, hanging with, like, you know, doing these things. I would have gone, no, like, and you know, if I knew it was going to happen, I would have lost my mind.
GQ Awards with Nicho Hynes.
GQ Awards, Nicho and the Inspired Boys, life-changing moment. But there came a point where I felt like I want to preface this being like, it's not no arrogance, no anything about this. It's just that I felt what I was doing garnered, regardless of whether it garnered the attention of someone with social status, or someone who's just the Joe Blow from Forbes, it was all warranted because what I was doing was so fucking rogue. And so like it touched everyone. And regardless of whether you're known or you're not, it still touched people. Yeah. And so, you know, I don't, like, even when, you know, you recognize all the time, it's like, I'm still me. In the same way, Hamish is still Hamish. And Izzy, like, I sat down with Adesanya and interviewed him in his house in Auckland. Yeah. I'm sitting down with this guy I've idolized, talking, just like, yeah, this was always going to happen. Like, this might sound weird, but like, I dead set picture these things and go, this will happen in time. This is going to happen. I have no doubt. And whatever way that is. And I remember in the lift in Izzy's house, I remember saying
the lift in his house.
Yeah. Oh, in the unit complex of his house. Yeah. Let's I'm not giving too much away. Sorry, Izzy. But I remember being like it was an energetic moment. We're like staring at each other. And I was like, this is always going to happen for me. Wow. And I know you don't know this yet, but you will at some point. And he just, like, his whole body gets goosebumps. And he goes, oh shit. And like, it was like that, but I know he's had those moments in his life. And we're all in it together. As I said at the start, it's like there's no one's higher or lower than anyone. We're all just trying to be better. We should be trying to be better. Yep. And if you're not, you're wasting your opportunities. And so, yeah, like, regardless of whether I'm singing with Barnesy on stage or I'm, you know, hanging with people that were so touched by it, it's like it's all just as special as each other. Yeah. Yeah.
And now you did it for homeless?
Homelessness, yep.
So a little story of me. I thought I was the legend when I was about 13 years old. I flew back from Queensland and Mum and it was the first time I've really experienced seeing homeless people. And I went and gave $5, or I was dropping some money into the homeless people when they were sleeping, and I put it on my Facebook status.
Yep.
And I was like, I feel like a legend. You know, I feel really good about myself. Give some money to homeless people, and the point is, like, I thought I was a legend doing that. What drove you? Why homeless for starters, and for you to go, like, me thinking I'm a legend giving $5 to homeless, like, you've just done all this for homeless people, right? So why homeless people? What has something touched you in your life to do it for homeless, or is it just something you've just seen and just go, this just should not happen in our day-to-day life?
Yeah. So, yeah, like again, in the same way we talk about Hamish, the same way we talk about Joe on the street, the exact same people.
Yeah.
There's no, giving $5 to Hamish or giving $5 to him, no difference. I was fascinated that I could have parents that I could rely on, that if my job as being a sparker didn't go to plan, if uni didn't go to plan, if whatever didn't go to plan, I could go, hey, mum and dad, I need a bed. They go, no worries.
Yep.
Why is it these people on the street, when I moved to Sydney, I saw them, I was like, why is it that these people don't have that? Why can't they have someone? Why isn't there someone there for them? What's happened? We're the lucky country where we have access to fucking everything. If you want to go well, you can. Why is it these people don't? There's 126,000 or something homeless people in Australia at any night, which is a shocking number. And I would, every single Tuesday when I'd walk or run or bike into TAFE, I would see, 6 or 7 homeless people. And yeah, I was like, I need to help. And I felt inclined. There was just something that happened every time I drove past. I was like, I have to help. But it was always this, how do I help? And I remember ringing up mum and she said exactly what I just told you. It's like, we're all the same. Go and speak to them. Just the way you would if you saw Nicho in the street, go speak to them.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I did. I went up and spoke. How are you? That's all they want to know. Like, some of them just want to feel like they're not invisible, They just dead set. They get walked past by 1,000 people. No one acknowledges them. And so, yeah, I went up, hello, how are you? What's your name? Dave. How you going, Dave? Blah, blah, blah. Do you want some food? Do you want some money? Do you want some hoodie? And I was throwing out fucking hoodies, 3 hoodies a week. And so, yeah, I was just like, I gotta do more than just what I can do. I wasn't earning much and I couldn't really justify giving, because I would then be putting myself in a hard place. And then, yeah, I just was like, my running and everything was starting to get a bit nuts. And I was like, let's just fucking put them all together. It was never the homelessness run. It was always, I want to do this, I want to inspire, but in turn, I know people are going to want to help.
Yep.
So put it towards this, because this affects me and I want to help it. And that's how it all came about. And that's, there was 37,000 people donated for this run across Oz, which is like mental numbers. And the largest donation was $10,000. And that was Adesanya.
Wow. Fuck, that's awesome.
Yeah. So like, it touched so many people. It was no big corporates. It was like, oh my God, I got to help. I had mates donating 3 times. I was like, just people felt so a part of it that they went, we've got to give somehow. And this is what we're giving to. So
yeah, that's awesome. Cause like there's been so many times where obviously you're a much better person than I am, but like I've wanted to do that. I've wanted to like, go and speak to them, but I just get too scared, and it's just ridiculous me thinking that. And I've always wanted to like see a movie of where they go up and they bring a homeless person into their house and they bring them up and tell a story of a homeless person. I wanted to see a real life version of that, and just to see what they've actually been through, to why they've got to that position, why they don't have family that care about them, and how they've ended up living in that fucking street. You know? And
I've got an exciting thing on that. So through the money we've raised through Mobilise, there's 12 people matched with a job, housing for 6 weeks through the money we've raised through Toll Global Express.
That's great.
Toll, a team Global Express, who were a sponsor of my run. They've got on board and they're going to employ 12 people, and they're going to do a doco on their journeys.
Really?
Yeah. So it's fucking, it's like in real life time, this money is changing lives, getting off the street. So
well done.
Yeah. It's pretty special.
That's
special.
unbelievable.
Yeah. Here I was when I was 13 thinking I was a man. Like I said to mum that day, I was like, Mum, when I make the NRL one day, I want to build like a homeless shelter. And I've thought that, but he's just put it all into place. So well done, Neddy.
Thanks, mate. But it's all relative, and people need to, I think people want to give, and they want to, they want to go up to people on the street. They want to, help out where they can. They just don't know where. And I think like I always finish all my talks with like, there's never a right time to start. There's never a right time to do anything. So just do it. If it doesn't go to plan, it's all good. It'll be great. Yeah. Whatever happens, if it comes up short, then so be it. But you had a crack. And usually you'll find that majority of the time it's pretty special, whatever it is that you have a go at.
Absolutely. I think that, congratulations of what you've achieved there, because I think often like the average person does wish they could make a positive change, and to see it actually come to fruition like that is really incredible. I also think, you know, at the time when you were getting to Bondi, I think, Nicho, you were in America. I was getting on a plane to go to Europe, and I just remember like everyone I know was in Bondi otherwise, and it was all over social media, and it was all anyone was talking about. Everyone was talking about Nedd up until coming to Bondi. And I remember reflecting on it on my plane ride to London thinking, this is because right now in this moment, our world, our society needs messages of hope, needs to see that through the darkness, through the horrible things that we've seen in the last couple of years, you know, just in terms of our, you know, mental health or collective mental health, whatever, we need to see something that makes us feel good. And that's what you provided. And it's going to have this continued ripple effect, I think, for a long time. As you said, actually, when we first met last year, you were saying, I'm doing my first keynote in a couple of months, and you were a bit worried about it and whatever, and you're obviously just smashing it. And is that a big part of your plan and your focus for the next, say, 12 months? Are you going to keep doing lots of speaking, or what's the focus for you?
Like I keep touching on, I sound like a fucking broken record, but my goal is to just live as much as I can.
Yeah.
Is live as whole and as much and as viciously as I can. And so like the keynote, you know, you don't run across Australia so you can be a keynote speaker. No. You don't run across Australia so you can be a sponsored athlete. You don't run across Australia so you can be known. You don't, like for me, I ran across Australia because I wanted a challenge and I wanted to see what I can do, and I wanted to bring people along to help. And so off the back of it, like, yeah, there's the ability to, you know, I was working 48-hour weeks and then training either side to go run 100K a day across a nation. Like, it was not a great way to fucking train, right? Like elite athletes are, you know, that's their full-time job to go and do that thing that they're planning on, you know, and it was a cowboy operation. And so now I've got the awesome opportunity. Like I don't have to work as a Sparky anymore. The keynotes help that. And, you know, by the end of this year, I'm already starting to go, right, no more keynotes, no more anything, because I need to focus on this next thing I want to do, because that's going to consume all my time, energy, everything to get this done. But I just want to, every 2 years, if I can feel that feeling I got when running into Bondi, not that the people was what made that special. It was that like what it took for us to get to Bondi. That's what made Bondi so special. And so if I can feel that feeling again 5 or 6 more times, I think that's a pretty good recipe for a good life.
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah. Isn't it? And I think that that's also something that makes you unique, because I think, and this is not to criticize those kinds of people who've done something amazing, but it's easy to just go recycle the same story for 20 years of being on the speaking circuit. But this is, so true to the person you're describing yourself to be.
Even my keynotes, like I don't get up there, and I know that people want to hear about how I got across Australia. Yeah. But you know, of a 45-minute keynote, 35 of it is not even a single word about running across Australia. It's about evolving, be a better person, you know, be good people. Good people give, you know, like we're only here for fuck all of amount of time. We're here, you know, we blink, we're 24. You blink, you're 28. Nicho, how old are you?
27.
We, you know, we're just so like, we think we're going to be here forever, and we are so, you know, hesitant on doing things because for, you know, the fear of what, you know, we'll just try it next time. But it's like there might not be a next time. Just like that's how I live. I couldn't care for being known. I couldn't care for money or anything. I just care for living so in the moment and just making the most of it. Like I walked down the street today just like smiling at everyone because, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like we're all in it together. Like just enjoy it. There's no, I'm getting a bit fucking spiritual here, but it gets like that for me. I'm just like, I just want to make the most of each day. Why be miserable? Why be upset about your scenario? It's like,
I love that. Everyone needs to hear that.
Yeah.
We're all in this together. I think that's such a,
There's so many gold nuggets that people don't take out.
Far out.
Fucking
I'm like trying to lock them in my brain. Like it's so good.
This is probably gonna be the first podcast I listen back to.
Oh, that's a big thing. He's never listened back to an episode.
That's good.
Mostly because you don't like listening to your own voice or whatever. But
and I hear your voice enough.
Yeah, exactly. Before I throw to Nicho for our last question, we always ask our guests, on a practical level, how are you in terms of your body? Because I know that it's been very hectic in some of the building everything back.
Mm-hmm.
You're back to full health, able to move without pain.
Fuck, I haven't moved without pain for about 4 years now. I think the answer to that is no, but I don't think I'll ever get to 100%. I think I will be, being an athlete, you're never really at your best. If you were, something's wrong. Like you're sitting out too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, just like, I think if I get to 80, 85%, I'll be ready to go for the next thing because it's inevitable I'm going to get injured again. I'm going to run on injuries. It's like, how do we get the most bulletproof body to then go again? But, I've had, in terms of actual physical things like feet have been a big thing for me. Like, it's almost like your body will withstand as much as it possibly has to while your mind's telling it to keep going. But as soon as you stop and as soon as you're trying to get back into it, it's like, don't you fucking do it again. So it'll just like niggle here, niggle there. Then you're like, oh, am I actually in pain? Is this actually, or is this mindset, So it's been a fun little battle. And like, my hormones and just like, I was so out of whack when I finished. I had not slept. My like adrenal would have been on overdrive. Like we had a lot to work through, but I'm pretty, good now. I'm running Sydney Marathon in September 17th. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We've got a fair bit up ahead, but September next year, I should be good to go for my next thing. So, yeah.
Wild stuff.
After, it's gonna be a bit of a weird question, but after your run, you said you weren't normal for a while. Mm-hmm. How long did it take for you to have sex?
I think we're pretty into it pretty quick.
Yeah.
I had a few cracks on the run actually. Funnily enough.
Yes. I hope Gemma's okay with you talking about that.
She's fine. She loves it.
Of course you asked that, you dickhead. All right, Nicho, last question.
I reckon the listeners were wondering too.
Yeah.
So last question I asked everyone, this is a bit of a reflection, but so the little kid that was on that first photo, if you're standing in front of a mirror and you're looking at the other side and it's not you, but you're looking at it's your younger self, and what would he be thinking of you right now?
I think he'd be fucking proud. I think regardless of what I've done, I think he'd be proud because he'd know I was always going to go and do things that whatever it is, wherever the door opened that led me down whatever path, I'd still be proud. I think like, I don't know, I don't think he'd think I'd be a runner, which I don't define myself as. But I think proud's the biggest word there in that I am proud, and that's why I accept to come and talk and do these things because like if I wasn't, it would be a hard thing to be able to get, like, you know what I mean? Go and run around a park with 200 people or, if I wasn't, it would not feel right. So I think proud's the biggest thing there.
And would you give him any advice or anything you'd do differently?
I wouldn't change a thing. I would just grab every opportunity. And if that opportunity doesn't bring you anything after a certain amount of time, just on the next. And that's, as I keep touching on, just making the most of every day because you have no idea when it could be it.
I love that. And before you go, Marlee, finish us off, I just want to say, like, I know you do so many podcasts and so many interviews and that, and I was sort of like, fuck, how do we do it different, Marlee? Because I know I'm not at probably the level you've done with all these interviews and podcasts, but I know telling my story over and over again, it gets a bit like, ugh. But you do it because you want to inspire people, right? And I just want to thank you from like the bottom of our hearts. Like I know how hard it is and how busy you are and just getting up and talking and hearing your own voice all the time. Yeah. And there's like so many gold nuggets, like I said before, that people can take out of this and get inspired by, and hopefully can get out of it, off their bed and off the couch and go and kick goals in life. And that's why we're doing this podcast, right? Because we want to inspire next generation of people. And like you've just inspired me. Like I've had goosebumps this chat, and you're a really, really impressive guy. And I appreciate everything you do for people and in life in general. And you've really inspired me now.
Thank you,
I want to go a great final series now. But
when you win the premiership, you got to thank Nedd.
Yeah. No, honestly, I mean that. And this is like, I don't often sit here and say this much to a lot of people, but this has been a great chat, and I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Nicho. I appreciate that coming from you, mate. So I mean, again, I don't do it for It's not for me to feel like I'm doing. It's just I really appreciate.
But you can
that.
tell that like you're
100%,
genuine,
so
and,
genuine.
and people can look at it and go, oh yeah, whatever, he's doing it for the limelight. But you can tell when people are really, really genuine in how they talk, and you're really that right now, and you're not doing it for any of the kudos or nothing. You're doing it. You're just a small country kid who wants to make a fucking difference in life, and you're doing that. So
Thank you.
Your family everyone should be really proud of you, and I love it. It's a great
Thank you,
story.
mate. No, it's thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm 100% back with everything that Nicho just said. I'm going to be saving a lot of those little quotes that you've given us today too, and really appreciate you making the time. I'm so glad we could make this happen. So
good.
Are you a country music fan?
Love country
Did
music.
you get to see Luke Combs at all?
Mate, I actually went out to the Tillies the night I was meant to.
Oh, you did?
I jumped ship, went to the Tillies.
yeah,
I regret it. No, I don't regret it. But Coombsy, mate, he's the goat. I sometimes put him in the ears and spend 2 hours just fucking floating.
Love
yeah.
that. Love that.
That's very good.
Well, thank you for listening to this very inspiring episode of When We Grow Up. Make sure you're getting a hold of Nedd's book when it goes on sale. It's called Showing Up. It'll be on
I will be.
shelves. Yep,
Yeah.
I sure will be too.
Get into it.
Make sure you're hitting subscribe wherever you're listening. Follow us on Instagram at When We Grow Up Pod. And other than that, we'll catch you next time. This will be hard to beat though.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.